Do you have it right on it?
I do have it right on it.
Sounds like it.
Yes. I made sure that I had it on the right time this time. But I'm not going to lie to you, I don't know how much of this song we're going to be able to listen to because it goes on for like 8 minutes. I don't know how jammy the beginning of this is. I should have listened to this version a little first. Oh, it's not?
No.
I mean, the song goes on for 8 minutes. It's got to be a little jammy, right?
Not in the beginning, no. I think the words will be sooner than you think. They're right
well,
here.
Everybody?
Told you. It's a studio song. You have to start with the lyrics fairly soon.
All right, well, everybody, this is episode 7 of A Couple of Nothings. This is Widespread Panic playing Fishwater. I'm Taylor.
I'm John.
And you guys are in for a good show. We've taken quite a break. It's been about 3 weeks.
Has it been 3 weeks?
It's been since we got back from Iceland. We've been that unbelievably busy.
Yeah, we really have.
The first weekend we got back, we got to see this live.
Did they play Fishwater?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I remember it now. Yeah, we did 2 nights of Panic in Memphis at the Mud Island Amphitheater. Highly recommend the venue, even if you're not a Panic fan.
For anybody, I thought it'd be a pretty cool venue.
It is.
Right on the water, and it's only about 5,000 people. It's small and intimate. It's a really, really nice spot. Get to watch the sunset. Seeing that moon rise over the top of the buildings, like downtown Memphis, was really cool too. It was definitely a really cool spot. Late June, so it was nice and hot. I mean, really, really hot.
If you do go to the Mud Island Amphitheater in the summer, be prepared for the bugs that come with being on the river.
It was no joke. That bug situation was awful. I woke up the next morning and my ankles looked like I had been attacked by something.
You had been attacked.
I don't think I've ever had like that kind of concentration of bug bites on my legs before, and like not even camping or anything. Like that was really bad.
Speaking of camping, we have to get back in the woods soon.
I know, I was thinking about maybe suggesting it this weekend, but after our last 3 or 4 weekends, I am ready to do nothing.
Well, maybe we can get a few more of these episodes out.
We were only here one weekend. We were only in Birmingham at home one weekend in the month of July, and that was for a music festival.
Yeah.
So you can't even say that was like a nice, calm, relaxing weekend. So we got back from Iceland.
It was a rainy weekend.
We got back from Iceland. We had 2 nights of Widespread Panic at Mud Island. Then the next weekend we had a wedding where we got to hang out with some cool new people. Got to hang out with another band called Luthi. Hopefully
Based out
we'll
of
get
Nashville,
them.
Tennessee.
Hopefully we'll get them on the show and we'll get a record from them for sure. We're going to see them the next couple weeks. So we had the wedding in Tupelo, Mississippi. Then we had Sloss Fest, which was here in Birmingham with my little sister, who has been shown on this podcast already on our first Roadcast episode. But at Sloss Fest, the cluster of what was Sloss Fest.
Yeah, don't trust security guards if they tell you that a festival has been canceled for the whole day.
Yeah, for the whole day. So we get there, and it's rain. It wasn't raining when we got there. No,
it had started lightning.
No, it had rained. We actually stayed and waited out the rain, remember? We played a game because it started to rain. We were here, and we played a game of Catan.
You're right.
We waited out the rain, and I debated picking up rain ponchos. And then we get in line, and the guy's like, turn around. The show's canceled for the day,
folks.
the whole festival. Yeah. Sorry, folks. The security guard out front should have told you. We were like, what? So we quickly hopped back in the car, came back. And then eventually, after much confusion on Sloss Fest's part, on the Twitter, Instagram world, finally made it back. Finally, they opened it back up. They apologized for kicking everybody out because of the lightning delays.
And they didn't have to cancel any shows the first day.
Yes, they did.
Did they?
Yes, they did.
Really?
So, unfortunately, I wanted to see Big Frida. Big Frida was canceled. There was a couple of smaller shows. We got to see the big people. We wanted to see... But this was Saturday, technically. It's Saturday, Sunday concert. I thought you said Friday, sorry. But yeah, so we got to see... So after all the confusion and stuff, we got to see 21 Savage,
Jason Isbell,
Jason Isbell, and then Arcade Fire. 3 very, very, very different shows to back up to one another. You go from literally the most vulgar rap show I've ever been to in my life. And I've been to a 2 Chainz, a Juicy J, 3 6 Mafia,
You've
the
never
Yin Yang
been to
Twins.
a 3-6 Mafia
No.
show.
Well, yeah. I don't think it was all of 3 6 Mafia, but it was like some of them. Maybe it was like one person and they just said, featured in 3 6 Mafia. Maybe that was like their tagline. I was in college. Didn't care who it was.
It was 3-6 Mafia to you.
Yeah, it was 3 6 Mafia to me. The Yin Yang Twins, who else was it? 21 Savage was the most outrageously vulgar and explicit show I've ever been at. And then I looked around myself and I see not only my 18-year-old sister, but I see all these other kids who were in high school just singing along to every single word.
Don't quote. Don't quote.
You know, okay, if you don't know 21 Savage's like most popular song, go Google what he likes to do with hot sauce and his lady friends, okay? He likes to put it in a very inappropriate place, and I look over and everybody is just chanting, put that hot sauce, and I'm going, oh my gosh, what is going on? And then he is explicitly talking about cooking crack and how his stuff sells, and oh my gosh, I just was looking around and people are whipping their arms like cooking it in the kitchen. I'm going, you don't even know what this means.
You act like this is unpopular though, or uncommon.
No, I know. It's not, but that was the crazy thing was like, that was the worst part was that it wasn't uncommon, and I look around at the people and the age demographic and I realize that everybody around me is under the age of 20, and I was like, this is terrifying. This is what society has succumbed to. Like, seriously. This is it.
Succumb to. Wow.
This is it. A bunch of 16-year-olds talking about cooking crack. Yeah, that's what it's come down to. But after that show, after we got all amped up with 21 Savage, we then settled right back down immediately with Jason Isbell. And I know that you were very, very excited to see.
I had never seen Jason, and I like Jason as a songwriter. So yeah, I was excited to see Jason.
That was probably the person you were most excited for in the weekend. So in years past, Sloss Fest has had a lot better of a lineup to our music style. Last year it was Widespread Panic, Sturgill Simpson. It was a really, really great lineup. This year, we really only went because my little sister really wanted to go. She was excited for 21 Savage, Hippie Sabotage, and somebody else that I don't... Oh, Rainbow Kitten Surprise. So, which unfortunately, we didn't get to see Rainbow Kitten. But you were most excited to see Jason. I didn't really have anybody that I even knew their music, so I could care less. I just like good music. But you were most excited to see Jason. Did he live up to your expectations?
Yes and no. It was good to just say that I've seen Jason Isbell in concert, but at the same time, I don't feel like you get as much out of seeing someone like Jason Isbell at a festival.
Do you feel the same way about seeing Sturgill last year?
Not as much.
Not as much? Not
as much, because Sturgill is more up-tempo and got more content in, where Jason has a lot of slower songs, and he,
Through those Alabama pines. I saw the Jason Isbell song, like, I know any of the lyrics too, and that's, I think, the extent of it. And the other song about chopping wood.
It's not about chopping wood.
No, it's about him wanting to kill his wife while he's chopping wood.
It's not about wanting to kill anybody.
He talks about one of us isn't leaving unless the other one's going to the hospital, or until one of us needs a medic. He wants to kill her, John.
No, it's not what the song is about. Jeez.
What is that song? Because I have asked you about it before.
It's called Cover Me Up.
Cover Me Up. Yep.
Yeah.
See? Cover me up with that tarp.
So, I would still want to see Jason in concert, and I feel like I would have a much better time at a Jason Isbell concert than I would at just a short time allotment at a festival for Jason Isbell.
Now let me ask you this: since we've been to Sloss Fest 2 years in a row, we've been to a couple Panic shows. We went to a Dave concert recently. What kind of atmosphere do you like better, the festival or like the single concert?
Oh,
experience?
single concert,
Really?
no doubt. Yeah, there's no doubt. There's far fewer people there for reasons other than the music at a single concert.
See, I think I want to get the full festival experience because I know at other festivals they don't cut people off for time and stuff like that. Like most
But
festivals,
to some extent, you have to.
but most festivals are a lot of bands' best shows because they get their creativity out. Because when you have stages that are like a mile apart, you really don't have to worry about time. Like, I mean, eventually you can't. I don't know. There's even times that Panic does 3-hour shows at certain festivals and stuff.
Because
I think
they're
we need to
allotted
have.
that time.
I think we need to go to like an actual festival before we can make. And I know you're not willing to make the jump, but I just bought a set of juggling balls and I am ready to take them out into the world and show off my extremely terrible juggling skills. Maybe get some pro tips.
You get some tips, there's no doubt.
Before we jump back to the juggling ball story, because that happened at the Panic concert, because there's a lot I want to talk about that happened at the Panic show. You want to talk about that or go back to the Sunday of Sloss Fest?
Sunday is really not a lot to talk about. A lot of shows got canceled because of rain.
So Saturday night we got to see Arcade Fire, and that was fantastic. You had never heard of them. I knew a couple of their songs, but I would never have known them by name or
I didn't
that
even
was
know
the
any
band.
of their songs.
I only knew, I think, maybe one or two. And that was the coolest show. Their light displays with the disco ball, their costumes, their, I guess you would call it cinematography, where they had her with the disco shirt on and the televisions were making it all different. They were almost like kaleidoscoping it, where you're seeing the same picture multiple times. That was really, really cool. That was a show I was not expecting to be so...
High entertainment production value, but the music, and I wasn't able to look into any of the music, but it didn't strike me as great music. It was enjoyable.
I thought it was really cool because they had the violin player, they had the girl playing keyboards, they had the a couple guitars. I think they even had two brass songs, but not a constant like trumpet player.
They had a diversity of instruments.
I thought it was awesome.
It was a lot of fun. There's no doubt.
It was. Had we not seen Grizz on Sunday, it would have been my favorite show, Sloss Fest. But come Sunday, after we waited out a rain delay of about 3 hours, after we only got to see one show beforehand, we got to see Nikki Lane, which was really, really cool. She was a good new country singer, I guess you'd call her. She was pretty good. But
she's very forward.
Yeah. Yeah, she was pretty, yeah. She was not talking about cooking crack in the kitchen, but she was pretty vulgar, especially for a mid-afternoon show. She was like 2:30. And she was not holding back there, that's for sure. But then after we waited out the rain for what felt like forever, we finally got to see Grizz. Is that all we... Yeah, and Grizz was really good. Grizz was like not somebody we were expecting. Before Grizz, we saw Hippie Sabotage for a little bit.
Yeah, and I want to say that I was more disappointed in Hippie Sabotage. Not that I had any expectations because I had no idea who they were. I was more disappointed in Hippie Sabotage than I was in 21 Savage. Because Hippie Sabotage was nothing more than heavy house beats and two guys on stage
and one
cursing.
of them was grungy, like screaming, almost like...
Yeah.
Rah, rah.
Yeah.
It was really weird. Not weird, but not what I was expecting. But it made sense that they called themselves...
It wasn't weird. It was just
It made sense that they
mindless.
called themselves Hippie Sabotage because they had beats going in the background, and then they had like grungy sabotage. I guess their name literally is what they are, but it was
just
different.
mindless.
It was
to me.
Yeah, we didn't stay for that one very long. My sister did. We went and saw Grizz, and we were so glad we did because that was awesome. And they also played Funky Town, and man, we danced like nobody's business. That was so much fun.
Yeah, I definitely danced the most at Grizz of any show.
And we're not big electronic music fans or whatever,
Nope.
but he was really cool with his saxophone up there and the stuff that he was doing. The way he ended, you could tell that everybody wanted him to keep going because he was up on a platform and he jumped down and at the same time the music ended and he was like, all right, that's it, I gotta get off the stage. And people were still standing there like cheering for him, encore. But Chris Stapleton was starting behind him. Stapleton. And he was pretty good. He was a good end wrap up, nice kind of calm Sunday out. He was good.
Yeah, I enjoyed Chris Stapleton at the festival more than I did Jason Isbell. But if I were to go to a Stapleton show and then an Isbell show, I know that I would enjoy the Isbell show more, if that makes sense.
Well, an Isbell show would be way more intimate. He does stuff at, like, if you're not from Alabama, but he does stuff at the Alabama Theater, where Chris Stapleton does stuff at the BJCC. So you'd have a big concert versus a very small, intimate.
And it's not that it's a small concert necessarily. It's a smaller venue.
Smaller.
But he does the large venues as well.
I guess I always just assumed he did fairly smaller event spaces.
He does from time to time, but he also does the larger events.
I don't know his music at all, so
I know.
I wouldn't be able to think he could fill up a big arena. I just don't know his stuff that well.
So, now that we've covered Sloss.
Yeah, Sloss was fun. Sloss was good. Nice, long weekend of just dancing and waiting for the rain to pass. What?
No, I was going to say that we could come back to this if you want, but there is a topic that we could discuss that came out of Sloss.
Go for it.
You and I and Stowe, we interviewed Stowe for our first interview, but we discussed this at the Mexican restaurant that we went to about whether or not capturing something on your cell phone takes away or adds to an experience. Do you want to cover everything we've done?
Go for it. No, this is fine. Go for it.
So, I want you to. I'm of the opinion.
Can you elaborate more on this point for people that don't know
that's
what we're
that's what I'm going to do. I'm of the opinion that if you are.
No, let's go to the backstory. So we were talking about the difference between what it's like at a Panic show, because we had just recently been to one, and the difference between this, especially this 21 Savage concert, because when I looked around, everybody, like I said, was under the age of 20. Everybody not only was rapping along to every word, but had the cell phone in their hand, Snapchat, Instagram story, taking a video, where at the Panic show we had just recently been to, unless there was one popular song like Chili Water or Fish Water playing, like what we were just, people didn't have their phones out because they were caught up in the moment dancing. So you asked us, so the weekend after Sloss Fest, we then went to Atlanta. So again, weren't home for a weekend in the month of July. And so we went to Atlanta and we hung out with our friend Stowe, friend Katie, did a whole bunch of stuff in Atlanta. But yeah, our first night you did ask us, what was the question?
Well, the fundamental question is, if you're in a moment, if you're experiencing a moment of something, of anything, if you take your phone out to capture that moment, whether it be to save it for yourself or to send it to someone else, does it take away from your experience? And I'm of the opinion that it does, because you have to allot some sort of energy to getting the phone out, getting to the application you want, and recording the event, where you could be totally focused on the event. And in Atlanta, I think you argued the opposite.
Well, not for me personally. For me personally, it would be an event to take my phone out, open my Snapchat, because it's not second nature to me. To my sister's generation and all the kids at the 21 Savage concert, they already have those things pulled up, first of all. Their phone is already in their hand. It's just second nature for them to just hold it up, have their thumb out, and then be doing something while it's already in their hand, whether that be singing, dancing, whatever they do nowadays. I don't know. Which, speaking of whatever they're doing nowadays, when we were at the wedding, these Finstas, these fake Instagram accounts? Well, one of the other bridesmaids just looks at us and she goes, "Y'all will never believe what's on my sister's Finsta right now." We're like, "What?" She goes, "Her and her friends are tasing themselves right now, and they literally are videotaping each other, shooting themselves with a taser to see what it felt like." Like, that's what children do nowadays for entertainment. because they just think if they take a video of it, it's funny. And so what I'm getting, that just was such a weird anecdote because that was so bizarre when she looked at us and we were like, they're doing what? But it just is second nature to that younger generation. They've grown up with the phones in their hands. They know it takes no extra effort for them to open up the Snapchat and pull up a Snapchat really quick because they do it 24/7. That for them it doesn't take away the experience. Now for you and I it would, because it'd be a process to get it open. Who am I gonna send it to? La la la. They got all like shortcuts and stuff figured out. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, but the basis of my argument is that our attention is limited, and if you're giving your full attention to one thing, in order to do something else, you have to give some attention, whether it be the smallest amount.
I don't think that they have to direct any other attention towards it. Like, I don't think it takes away from them at all.
Could that be dangerous in some scenarios where you're talking about it being completely subconscious? Because if you don't give any attention to it, it's subconscious. Could that be dangerous in some situations where you have a subconscious reaction to pull your phone out and start capturing something?
Dangerous in what sense?
How
could
thinking,
that be dangerous?
It's a very specific example.
I mean,
that ran through
it's
my
dangerous
head,
when you think about people that text and drive and don't even realize it.
Right.
But in other situations, well, then I was also thinking, like, when my instinct, if somebody gets into a fight or if I get pulled over by a cop, isn't to pull my phone out and videotape it. My reaction, especially if somebody's fighting or doing something stupid, is to go help that person. Where other people, it's second nature to film it.
That's where my mind went.
I mean, I guess, but that's just a weird. Yeah, that is like, that's second nature to some people. If they turn around, like, so the Dave Matthews concert we just went to, you broke up a fight. Most people's nowadays reaction would be to pull out their phone and go, oh my god, watch this fight happen at a Dave Matthews concert. And you were like, hey, break it up, people. It's not worth it. You don't need to do it.
That's not a quote. But
What'd you say?
I was just joking with you. All I said was there's no need. I repeated there's no need until everyone stopped.
I'm sorry. I thought you said it's not worth it.
Yeah.
My bad. I wasn't there. I wasn't paying attention to you.
I know you weren't.
So I was way too enthralled with the music.
So was I, but when I heard that scuffle behind us, it's just like my problem with turning around when people are taking pictures at concerts. If I see something or hear something out of the ordinary going on, it's my reaction to snap to it.
Yeah, you have a bad habit when somebody turns their flash on to turn around and look at it, and you probably have the goofiest looking face in every picture anybody's ever taken at a concert.
Probably so. I know there are at least 3 from the Panic show that we went to. That's
true. And so back to the Panic concert, yeah, I decided I wanted to learn how to juggle, but we kind of had this weird, I don't know if you'd call it a synchronicity, but weird thing kind of happened. So we are walking into the concert, and we're walking with our friend Steven. And, you know, it's just as casual. We're just walking in. He's talking to people. So he's talking to the girl.
Happy birthday, Steven.
Is it his birthday today?
I think so.
Oh. So we're walking, and this one girl starts talking to us, and Steven is like just having this casual conversation with her. She's talking about what songs she wants to hear. Then Steven turns around, keeps walking. The girl taps this guy on the shoulder, and she said, hey, you're the guy that took a picture of us earlier tonight, aren't you? And he said, yeah, you know, like a half hour ago, I took your picture on the bridge. And then Steven turns and looks at this other random guy, the same guy, and he goes, hey, we hung out last night. We met each other at the bar. And so it was this really bizarre triangle of Steven just happened to be talking to a woman who happened to have a run-in with the same person that Steven had a run-in with the night before, and they all happened to converge at this one spot walking into the Panic show. And I mean, like I said, there's 5,000 other people heading into this concert. So, yes, they were all going to the concert or whatever, and so they had that in common. But for, like, of all people, for that, like, Steven to talk to and for that woman to, like, flag down for them to converge together on the bridge, I personally thought was the weirdest, most, I don't know, it gave me like weird chill bumps because I'm watching it happen and I'm going, that was really weird. Like they should not have all met up right then. It was a very, I don't know.
So I have I guess what you would call a synchronicity associated with the Panic show as well. And I didn't understand that when you were telling me about it at the show because you were trying to explain it to me. And we were in a crowd of people. I wasn't giving you my full attention, and I just thought, I'll ask later about it. But I listened to a few other podcasts, and I know you do too, and one of the podcasts had a guy on talking about the history of weather modification. And he mentioned a guy by the name of Hatfield in his presentation, and Hatfield was the first person to really practice weather modification, and he did it in California in, I believe, the 1800s. And I messaged one of actually I messaged the podcast Twitter account, and I said, hey, I just listened to the weather modification episode. Here's a song by one of my favorite bands called Hatfield, and it's about the guy who started weather modification. Sent it to him, here you go, this is cool. We get to the Panic show the next week, and of all the songs that Widespread plays, they played Hatfield, and I thought that was very cool.
Yeah, but how recently had you listened to the podcast? I feel like it had been a couple days, or like a week or so, and I don't think that's as cool as my synchronicity.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
But we did have one. We're on our way to our last podcast interview with Mr. Johnny Pryor. We were listening to a podcast, and in that podcast, they mentioned mollusks.
Yeah.
And in that interview with Mr. Johnny Pryor, he mentioned mollusks.
And we didn't go into it.
No, but I did think that one was a little bit more coincidental than the other one, because I know that there had been several days in between those. Mm-hmm. That one was almost immediately. Like, for two people to very randomly bring up mollusks was very strange. And we had another one when we recently went and saw the comedian who is the game show host of Cash Cab. I don't remember his name. Ben Bailey.
Ben Bailey, that's it.
We went and saw Ben Bailey in Hoover, and before the show, you said to me, hey, have you ever noticed Ben Bailey looks like Mike Rowe? And I didn't really see it. I still don't see it just because I know them. Well, there's also a really big age difference, and I can pick that up, and so I know both of them through completely. But on stage, Ben Bailey made comments about how
it's part of his act.
Yeah, how often he gets called Mike Rowe, or, hey, you're that guy from Dirty Jobs. And he's like, no, I'm not. So I do think that one was pretty funny, too. Yeah. I don't see it, but I don't see it.
Do you think one looks better than the other?
No, they just look a lot different, and Mike Rowe's a lot older.
He's like 15 years older at most.
I was going to say 20, but yeah. It's a big age difference. You can tell it in, like, Ben Bailey's nose is kind of pointier. I think that's the difference I can see. But I also always picture him when he's, like, huddled up.
Trying to disguise himself.
To be Ben Bailey. Yeah. He's being, like, the sketchy cab driver on Cash Cab. Yeah. And he's got, like, the coat pulled up over his ears, and he's like, where you going?
Yeah. By the way, Cash Cab, if you don't watch it and you see it on, it's good television. Yeah,
and they're bringing it back. I was pretty pumped to hear that. I do not remember when he said. I know it's coming up soon, but
the end of this year, I think. Yeah,
so that means the next time I go up to New York City, I'm going to be taking a cab everywhere I go, on the hunt for Ben Bailey and Cash Cab. You know, they had a second one that was in Chicago. I think it was a woman.
I heard that, but I haven't seen it.
And we've had this conversation before, but I don't think we've ever discussed it on a podcast about the weird things you didn't know about some television shows, like about Cash Cab. It's not actually Cash Cab. It's get your check in the mail a month later cab. But the cash that they hand you is just fake money. So you always see people.
Is it real money that you just have to give back?
You just have to give it back. So it's not fake money. But
would you technically be guilty of stealing the money if you ran with it?
I bet you it's not even close to the amount that they win.
Maybe not.
That's the thing. Like, you'd be ending up with a lot less money.
Yeah.
But unless they get taxed really bad, you maybe would end up with a little bit more. I don't know.
Well,
These are questions we have.
Winnings are taxed at,
Right. It's really, really high.
I think, more than 30%.
It's really high. So, I don't know. But yeah, that one. And every now and then, or they have to reshoot the, like, entry into the cash cab because they get in and they technically haven't signed waivers and stuff yet. So they get in, they know that they're in cash cab, they then have to get out, sign all the forms, and then hop back in and act like they're surprised. And now that I know that, some of those people on there
That's what I
are
was
so
going to
bad
say.
at covering it up. Like, so unbelievably bad. It's hilarious. And then, like, the most disappointing one was that every now and then they have to, like, hire actors or, like, hire somebody to go on the show because they have to go back and refilm to fill, like, awkward
Very
gaps.
specific time gaps.
Like, oh, we only need somebody to be on the show for 8 minutes. And so if they need somebody to go 4 blocks, then they, like, hire somebody. And so that was a little disappointing, but they said that doesn't happen often, especially because they just started picking up more and more people.
Yeah, and it makes sense that they would be able to edit down the videos to fit those slots.
Right. Yeah,
But I
especially at
can
the beginning when they don't have a lot of shot, like a lot
Right.
shot. Yeah, but then other weird ones were like the show Chopped, which I love. And I've only seen one episode with Martha Stewart being the new host and new judge. And she made me so mad because her first day on the job, she went behind the chef's tables and were like asking them questions and stuff. And I was like, Martha, you can't do that until you have earned the right to talk to them while they are cooking. Like, you cannot go over there and, ooh, what you making over here? It's not the Martha Stewart show. Anyways.
Before you go on, I noticed that after she did that, another one of the judges got up and did it.
Oh, I forgot about that. That guy was and he was like, oh yeah, what are they cooking? I was like, dude, sit back down, please.
Right. Just because, yeah, that's, I hate to see that.
Totally
I hate to see,
forgot about that
I hate
one.
to see someone make a power move or an alpha move. You could call it that. And Martha did. That was an alpha move, like, to get up and go look, because no one has ever done that on the show.
Yeah, they have several times. But I don't know if I've ever seen, like, the same judge do it multiple times. And I will say Bobby Flay did it when they did, like, the multi-round Bobby Flay competition. But that was also because he was then going to be competing against them. So he was kind of getting... And that one didn't bother me as much because Bobby Flay just kind of comes off as that arrogant...
But to see
person
someone...
that's gonna, but there have been other judges that do it, but it's very, very rare. So for her to do it on her first episode, I was like, that's a bold move, Martha.
Yeah, but it just gets under my skin to see someone follow in step.
Oh yeah, it was so
else.
unnecessary, and it was the same round too. Like, he didn't even wait for the next round. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, what are they doing over there? I'm gonna go check it out myself. No, dude, just sit back down.
Yeah.
But on Chopped, it takes so long for them to deliberate between the rounds, they say, is insane, like when they actually have to chop somebody. But they spend almost 30 minutes per person per round eating their food. So they say by the time they get to the fourth person's food, it's freezing cold. So I feel like they can't even give, like, accurate judgment statements because your food changes
yes, they can,
so
because
much.
the food does not change that much based on temperature.
Yes, it does. There are things like steaks that they have to absorb juices and things like that. There are certain things that the longer they sit, the more they'll, like, harden up or they'll soak up other juices and stuff like that. So it is not fair. Things get soggy. If you're waiting almost 2 hours, the appetizer round, there's 4 people. If you're spending 30 minutes a person, that's almost an hour and a half until your food gets eaten. Don't tell me something that's not soggy. Maybe. It may not change the actual flavor profile as much, but it changes the texture, and I feel like they can't give an accurate judging off of that if somebody's food's been sitting out for 2 hours versus, like, an egg. If you had to, like, fry an egg, that egg yolk would be hard.
That's why they don't use eggs.
But I'm just saying, like, that is an example. Like, don't show me that some foods won't taste different when they're cold versus when they're not, because they do.
As someone who eats cold food.
Oh my God, I know, you were so disgusting with that. I can imagine being your coworker. You used to just take, like, cold spaghetti and just sit at your desk and eat cold spaghetti.
That's because I don't use a microwave.
I know, it's so gross.
It's not.
I just think about it and it freaks me out.
The flavor profile doesn't change at all.
But the temperature, like, I don't like to eat cold food. Ugh.
Well, that's a personal preference. I don't mind temperature.
It's so gross. Ugh. I don't know how you do that. You are the most interesting person. You are.
Thanks.
Oh boy, God, the cold food. I completely forgot you do that.
So let's talk about Dave. Or do we have anything in Atlanta that we did? We really just went out to eat
Yeah,
and
we had a crazy, crazy time in Atlanta. We always do. It's
went out for the
don't need to go
nightlife.
back anytime soon. I need still catching up on my sleep, because then after that I had a work conference, and after that we were out downstairs in the hotel till almost midnight every night. And that Eastern time, man, that messes me up in the morning. Having to wake up at 6 in the morning is really 5 a.m. our time. It's rough. But Atlanta, we unfortunately had to cancel an interview with our friend. We'll just postpone it. But yeah, I mean, Atlanta in general, we were going to go to a United soccer game. Unfortunately, ticket prices got jacked up last minute. I mean,
Yeah,
almost tripled in price. And so for us to have standing room and still want to pay for beers and things like that, it just wasn't quite worth it this trip. Maybe we'll win some tickets or do something. We'll make it to an Atlanta United soccer game eventually. But no, we we were kind of hungover every day, and we just kind of woke up, ate brunch.
Speak for yourself.
We woke up at noon, ate brunch at like 2 in the afternoon, came back, showered, and went back out, and then did the same thing the next night. Come on, you know it's true. Other than Friday night, because we didn't wake up in Atlanta, we just went out to dinner.
Yeah, but I was saying speak for yourself in the hungover sense.
You were hurting Saturday morning. Yeah, you were.
Nah.
Yeah, don't even. Don't you even. That's not cool, man. But yeah, so back to Dave Matthews this weekend. Then this weekend, we went back down to Gulf Shores for our second attempt at seeing Dave Matthews, and this time it was successful, fortunately. We spent the weekend, a lovely weekend, with your mom and sister, eating lots and lots of seafood, getting a little too sunburned because somebody with as bleach blonde of hair as you and as fair skin has not learned how to reapply sunscreen.
I have such a problem with sunscreen, even though I know I have to have it if I'm going to be out in the sun. Because there's something about putting those chemicals on my body.
You are the same way with your deodorant. It took you 30 minutes to find a deodorant
And
in
I
Walmart
didn't
that
find
you
a
were
good one.
suitable, like you were fine with putting in your body. Ugh, just be a normal person and just
No.
put chemicals in your body.
No.
Just do it. Come on. Everybody hates you complaining about it.
You know, when Dave was singing Don't Drink the Water, did you hear anybody behind you scream, say it again?
No.
Because I did.
That's impossible because you were standing right next to me.
I yelled it as loud as I could. He had already said don't drink the water 8 times, and I just yelled, say it again.
Because he could totally hear you and everything.
I'll bet you he did.
If I couldn't hear you, then he didn't hear you.
I just had my hands cupped so that you couldn't hear me.
Oh,
You were right
you
below
over
me.
my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, say it again.
I projected my voice.
Oh, I'm sure. Because, yeah, I put earmuffs on for that 10 seconds. But, yeah, so then Sunday night, we went and saw Dave Matthews. And I'm so glad you enjoyed it as much as I had hopefully hyped it up to you.
I don't feel like you hyped it up very much.
I didn't?
No.
Okay. Well, I didn't want you to be disappointed because I know...
I mean, I never thought I would be disappointed.
I mean, like, if I had hyped it up too much.
I don't think you could have.
Really?
After going to that show, I don't think you could have.
Why do you say that?
I just had that much fun.
Really?
Yeah. I don't think, given the amount of fun that I had, that you could have hyped it up beyond that. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. I mean, that does, because I guess what I was thinking was I was scared that the show wasn't going to be good, and if I hyped it up to as good of how I knew the show was going to be, that was really... I didn't say that anywhere near correct, but I don't... Anyways, I knew the show was going to be really, really good, but I didn't want to hype it up if it wasn't going to be good, and so I didn't want you to be disappointed, so I'm glad it lived up to what you thought it was going to be like, because it was a rockin' show. It was fantastic.
I do enjoy Widespread more, I have to say. But don't let that take anything away from how much I enjoyed.
I will say the only thing that I like more is that everybody at a Panic show's dancing. Dave, so...
There are times at a Dave show where you know that everyone is more concerned with being social than they are
Well, it wasn't even that. So what I was going to say is Panic fans are way more dedicated. Like, those have been, and it's a bit of an older crowd. There's, like, a lot of people with gray hair that kind of moved over from being Grateful Dead.
Long gray hair.
Well, that have moved over from being Grateful Dead fans, still wanted the jam band life. Panic themselves, the members are a little bit older. So I feel like the people that go to a Panic show are dedicated Panic fans. They know every song. They're there to dance. Where Dave has a younger crowd, but I would still say the crowd was ranging mostly, I would say, like, what did you say, like 30 to 45, like 30 to 40 or something like that?
I think 30 to 35 would probably be where the average fell.
So Panic has young fans like us, high schoolers, whatever. Dave has like some really young fans because his music's on the radio.
I saw some people there with a chaperone.
Oh yeah. Okay, those two girls in front of us, I could not figure out what was going on with this weird family dynamic because these girls looked like they were 15, but some man kept bringing them alcohol, and I could not tell if he was a father or
I didn't
if he
realize
was
they
like
had alcohol.
They had those huge yard-long daiquiris.
Oh man.
Yeah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That little
Yeah,
blonde girl
I
in
do.
front of me. They had the yard, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know what's going on here. And then a girl that looked the same age of him walked up with like a Miller Lite, and I was going, oh my God, these girls are definitely like 15. But anyways, so I think that because of the difference of the fans, the age demographic, you do have a little bit more fun in a Panic show because everybody's there for the music, where you do have the people that, I know Ant's marching, or I know that he just had a new album come out. So a lot of people were there for his new music. And
You think so?
well, he has 2 songs that are on the radio. So I have a feeling that some people bought tickets because, especially since the show had been postponed, that have said, oh yeah, I know that Dave Matthews song that's on the radio. I'll buy a ticket if they already
Right.
had friends going. So you have a lot less people at a Panic show. They're like, I know one Widespread song.
Widespread's not on the radio.
Right, but that's what I'm
So
saying.
you have to know the music.
You just have a little bit of a different demeanor when it comes to the fans, I think. But yeah, the Panic shows those 2 nights in Memphis. And also, you have the difference of the time. Dave puts on one set, or did put on one set for 2 hours, where Panic kind of puts on 2 hour-and-a-half sets and long encores, and the music is just a little bit longer. I saw the funniest tweet before the concert. It was like, record a Dave Matthews song, 3 minutes and 50 seconds. Dave Matthews live, 16 minutes and 50 seconds. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty true with almost any band, or it should be true with any band. I mean, some of those jam breaks Dave was doing, there was one that went from, I apologize, I do not know the new saxophone player, but it went from Rashawn Ross to Carter Beauford to Tim Reynolds to the new keyboardist, and then it went back, and then and each one of them just played for maybe like an 8 count of like a.
Yeah, it's just the structure of the song
Oh
where
man, some of those jam breaks were just fantastic. So good. It was painful for me not having Boyd Tinsley there. I mean,
he denies all of those allegations.
I'm sure he does, and that's what I was gonna say. I don't want to comment really.
Well,
I've never looked into them.
I'll say it for everyone who doesn't
know.
know. For everyone who doesn't know, there are allegations against Boyd Tinsley, the violin player for the Dave Matthews Band, as of right now, former violin player for the Dave Matthews Band, that he was engaging in inappropriate behavior with a person who was underage at the time.
Somebody that was in his offshoot band.
Right.
Not the Dave Matthews Band, but he has his own band, side band.
Someone who was recording with that band. And he's not touring with Dave Matthews, and that's confirmed.
Right, yeah. And so that was the hard thing for me, was because I know their music so well. I knew when there were times when Boyd Tinsley's supposed to be getting down with his dreadlocks going everywhere, and it was just painful not to have him. Like, I can just hear it in my head right now, and I was just sitting there like, man, I really wish that things weren't going on like that. I'm glad that they have said, hey, let's take a break until things get cleared up. Let's let you get your head cleared up. I'm not saying that he should be on tour with them, but I am saying it was painful for him not being there. But it was still great. They did a great job of covering up the spots that he was missing in them songs.
Well, and it's not like it's even that much of a task. It's just not breaking for another musician.
Yeah, a lot of them that I was hearing though is like when he's playing in the background.
The actual
yeah,
riffs
like the
in the
actual
songs, right.
Yeah, that was hard for me.
Right.
But yeah, the breaks it was easy because then you just don't say, "There's my good friend Boy Tinsley on the violin."
Yeah, I mean, a violin to me adds a layer to any music that it's involved in.
That's for
So
sure. I thought
to
that was
have-
really cool that Arcade Fire had like a violin or fiddle, whatever that girl was playing.
And my point earlier was, or my statement I was going to make earlier was that you can't, no matter what he did, you can't take anything away from his talent.
Oh no!
I mean, the man is a very talented violin player.
Agreed. Yeah, that.
No matter what else he is.
Right. Yeah, like I said, I'm glad they're letting him kind of take some time to get that stuff figured out, because that's definitely, if he's, it's not something you want to be involved in, but...
Well, it's not something you want your band to be.
Right.
I
no,
mean,
definitely.
even the fact that you have to dismiss a player for a short time, if it is even a short time, that still affects the whole dynamic of the band.
Yeah, they made the right move, definitely, giving him some space and stuff like that. But another difference between Panic and Dave I've noticed is I kind of pick up when a band has almost like a theme to their music. Like they sing about a lot of the same songs or same things in their songs. And Dave, I've noticed, sings, well, I have made this clear, all the songs are either about sex or death, because they literally are. Like, they're either about like how much you love somebody, or about somebody dying, or it's okay and you might die trying, those kind of things. And I think that goes back to his like South African roots. But I've noticed in a lot of his songs he brings up monkeys, and I've noticed in a lot of Widespread songs they bring up babies. And I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but in like 3 different Dave songs that we heard, I mean, the song he ended on, oh my god, I've been singing it all day and now I can't.
I'm not sure what it was.
Man, Love You Like a Monkey or something, whatever it was. The song that he ended on, but like 3 different songs in his concert mention I grew from monkey into man, or love me. Oh god, I really wish I could remember what that last one is. It's not love me like a monkey, but it's literally been stuck in my head all day. Yeah, but so when we started the show off with the Panic album, I was hoping that Barstools and Dreamers was on here, because it's one of my favorite, like, at the end, lyrically, when he's talking about babies don't know any words yet. And he goes, like, babies only know what they feel. And I've noticed Panic songs talk a lot about babies, but I think that's a really interesting kind of theme that both of them have going on, about developing and growing out of something into somebody else and kind of things like that. And so I don't know if you've ever noticed if bands kind of have common things, or if you've ever noticed those 2 specific things, but I think it's pretty interesting.
I noticed songwriting styles probably before I noticed musical styles. And that's why I'm always looking up lyrics. No matter what the song is I'm listening to, I'm looking up the lyrics. Because I want to know if, one, I can get behind listening to those lyrics to see if there's a certain message that's being put forward, or if there's no message at all. It's just I'm more interested in the lyrics of a song than I am necessarily in the music behind the song, even though I find enjoyment in the music. I'm definitely more intrigued by the lyrics of a song. So yeah, I've noticed the Panic themes, and I've noticed the Dave themes.
So is the reason you don't like neo-country music because of the lyrics?
Absolutely.
Not because of the drums and electronic stuff in the background?
Well, it's a much more simplified musical style, and I think that goes along with the lyrical style.
But the lyrics bother you more than the actual?
Absolutely.
Interesting. I've always assumed it was the other way around for you.
Nope. That's why I only have a very select, usually underground selection of rap music that I enjoy. Because 21 Savage.
As long as it has the Nokia beats in it.
Now, I will say 3 6 Mafia is an exception to that. But that's just because I was...
Rocks in my socks.
That's not 3 6 Mafia. That's Project Pat.
Oh, that is Project Pat.
Project Pat did do some things with 3 6 Mafia.
Okay,
That's who
I saw was Project Pat.
Yep.
I saw Project Pat. My bad. I apologize. Yep. I apologize.
But that song is Project Pat. I think I enjoy. I think I can overlook the lyrics of Memphis of
Macas, cranberry vodkas.
that's 3-6 Mafia. I think I can overlook the lyrics of the notable Memphis style rap from that era, just because going to college that close to Memphis, it's really what I heard a lot of the time, especially hanging out with an older group of people. That was what, if they were playing rap music, they were playing that. So
just an age difference thing.
Yeah, I think so, to some degree.
That makes sense. I feel like 3-6 Mafia was definitely out the door when we were in like middle school, high school, right?
Yeah, they were
A couple of them were in jail and stuff like that. Juicy J split off and those kind of things. Yeah, that was like high school. So.
But if the music doesn't have any sentimental value like that does, then 3-6 Mafia has sentimental value. How funny is that?
Oh my god, I don't think anybody's ever said that before. Like,
oh, you know that they have. If the music doesn't have any sentimental value, if there's no message behind the lyrics, or if there's a message that I don't agree with behind the lyrics, I don't listen to it.
Don't give it the time of day.
Nope.
Interesting. Huh.
Because I'm a firm believer that music is a reflection of who you are.
I actually 100% agree with that. And I'm really disappointed in myself that I haven't started my book on music and how it affects your brain, musicophilia.
Well, you're still finishing another book, aren't you?
Still in the process of finishing another book, but I think we've talked about this on an episode, that I am highly fascinated with the fact that the kind of music you listen to really does reflect who you are as a person, like your upbringing, those kind of things. And I asked you a good question, maybe when we were in Atlanta, if the lyrics and the meanings behind things, especially like rap music, if that's what's creating kind of this incel movement culture. I don't know what you want to call it, but listening to some of those lyrics about where 21 Savage likes to put hot sauce, and one song was literally about, I don't want this girl, I don't want to wake up next to this girl, I'm going to pass her to my homie. Those kinds of lyrics. I have just wondered over the years what kind of psychological, sociological changes those have made when somebody expects that that's how they're supposed to be treated because they hear it coming from rappers and things like that.
Well, not only does it make a statement about how the women in those songs are being treated and how other women should expect to be treated, but it also makes a statement to young men about how they should treat women. Not necessarily should, but how they can treat women. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that has any contribution to the incel movement. That's a popular topic of discussion now, but I think it does contribute to the disconnect between men and women in certain aspects of society.
I think it kind of drives a greater divide because men have unrealistic standards of women thanks to things like rap music and
pornography.
Where women have unrealistic expectations of men based off of movies. Think about how many women...
Romantic
comedies. So, I guess I can't really say... I guess women are just as easily... And I'm not saying that rap music only affects men and, or whatever, but it's a stronger...
The entertainment value is... The entertainment value comes from appealing to an idealistic view of the other sex. Men enjoy watching or hearing about idealistic women, and women enjoy watching or hearing about idealistic men. Even in the back of their mind, they may know that that's not reality, that they may never find anyone like that. It still appeals to them because, ideals appeal to us.
I know, it's just really interesting when you look at what infiltrates men, which is vulgar, loud, like
You mean
short music.
Do you mean appeals to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, what did I say?
Infiltrates.
Oh.
But I
I did
understood.
not think I said that word,
Yeah.
but appeals to men is like vulgar,
Aggressive.
loud, and short music, where women are infiltrated by long form.
You've said it again.
I just say
Infiltrated.
infiltrated that time. Well, that's what it is. They're coming after us, John. But
You could say it's cultural infiltration, but we won't go there.
influenced.
There you go. There you go.
I think that's what I was trying to say, was influenced by long form, slow romantic movies. I just think that that's really just shows a lot about the differences between men and women, and I think it's just really fascinating that now that I'm thinking about it, that those are two huge social influences that most people probably don't really think about that often.
Well, this discussion would give credence to the idea that art influences life instead of light influencing art.
Dude, let me just
life
tell you-
influencing art.
Let me just tell you what's influenced my life lately, and I'm like, I mean, I know it's actually doing its job, I get it, but I was disgusted at myself last night because I was watching TV. I just ate my bowl of spaghetti, and I kept seeing commercial after commercial after commercial about food, about KFC this, Taco Bell, or like any place, like Arby's, whatever. And I got hungry again. I like got up and got a snack, and I was like, oh my God, these are actually making me hungry. Like, it's disgusting that we are that easily influenced, like.
Influenced.
But like, I seriously felt like I was personally being, like, invaded. That I personally felt like I couldn't just sit and enjoy. I was watching Harry Potter. I should not have been thinking about wanting fried chicken. Like, that's not okay. And it was so concerning to me that when I think about how many, especially children, like, and I'm not trying to get into a discussion about whether having the television on in front of your kids is okay or not, but I'm just thinking about how many times a day a child is going to see commercials if they're just watching, if they just have it on in the background while they're playing. Like, those kind of things are not, like, it's not healthy. It's not, like, it was so, it's kind of scary. It's scary how many billboards I see. I mean, because I'm on the road for at least, like, at minimum 5 hours a day, like, and how many billboards I see that I, like, actually go like, oh man, that looks pretty good. Oh, there's a Chick-fil-A up there. And I mean, like, thank goodness I have self-control and I never stop, because most of the time, 95% of the time, it's because I don't want to spend the money, and also because I want to get home at the end of the day. But it's really disgusting to me when I, like, actually think about how much advertisements and things like that truly influence people's lives. It's just so yeah.
I was waiting to see if you
I
were
only
gonna
said infiltrate the last time because I was making a joke. No, it's like actually genuinely concerning to me. And like I said, they're doing their job, but
if you see it as a problem, what's the solution?
Move to the woods. No, that's the thing nowadays is I really don't know, because
But you appealed to a greater problem, in more so not only in the sense that it appealed to your appetite, but in the sense that it appeals to a child's appetite and could embed some standard of how a child thinks about food.
It is, because it makes it a constant thought in your mind. If you are continually seeing like whatever ads, like, or anything, you're just constantly seeing food ads.
But it's finger licking good.
I keep mentioning KFC, but they're not the only ones. Like, if you're just constantly seeing food ads, then you're constantly thinking about food, and that's a problem. And I'm not even just talking about that. Like, it was like it alternated between food this, alcohol that, or some other television show. So you are hitting like the
No
three.
pharmaceuticals?
Oh, okay, well,
I guess not with Harry Potter because it's a younger audience.
I was watching it on Freeform, or what formerly used to be known as ABC Family. I don't think I saw as many.
That makes sense.
But you just have to think, you are hitting on three of like the largest addictions that people have nowadays: to food, to some other sort of substance abuse, whether that be alcohol or prescription drugs, and then just pure laziness with how much people binge watch television shows and have Netflix and chill dates and things like that. You were literally hitting on like the three biggest points. And I mean, that maybe that's why we are addicted to them, and maybe but it's just, I don't know what the solution is, because it's how companies get business. And I get it, because it made me want to go to KFC. It made me want to go give them my money. Like, I wanted something to be finger licking good. And so the advertisements are doing their job, but it's just the fact that we are getting bombarded with them 24/7 that I don't know how to get away from it. I mean, other than, I know for a fact that countries like Ireland, they have limits on how long or how many commercial breaks can be, how many billboards are allowed on the interstate and things like that. That's why when we were in Iceland and Ireland driving around, there was not as many billboards. I don't think we saw any in Iceland.
Well, in Iceland, there's really not much to advertise in most of the places we were.
I feel like you could easily advertise for local businesses.
But local businesses don't have the revenue in most cases to invest in those bombarding marketing campaigns.
But I still think that they could every now and then. If they put them up, somebody would buy them. Because there are still gas stations. How many times I see gas station billboards is insane. They could still have things like that in Iceland. There still are a couple of chain restaurants and things like that. Yes, you have big gaps between towns and stuff, but I'm still saying there was still nobody that had made a homemade, I don't even think we saw like any signs like, hey, restaurant this way. You know what I mean? Like, I still see those on the side of the road. That guy on the way to Talladega that's got the Dixie General store, those are his own signs. He made those. He stuck a whole bunch of flags up and stuff. Like, you just don't see any of that flashy advertising, or we didn't, at least in Iceland and Ireland, that I can think of off the top of my head. And so I don't know how nowadays you could go from the constant in your face advertising, neon signs, billboards, advertisements, to not as much of it. I just don't know how you step back from that now.
I'm of the opinion that the amount of advertisement isn't a problem, but our inability to control the effects of those advertisements is more the problem.
I agree both of them are a problem. I do think that it's a matter of self-control and things like that, but as I said, with children and things like that, that's something that are so easily influenced that you can't just say, oh, well, they should have the ability to not get hungry when they see that.
No, but they should have the...
I still think it's a problem. I just think that the 24-hour news and having the television being constantly 24 hours available and things like that, I just think it's a problem in general. And I really do think that advertising and things like that are just a result of constantly having your phone, the television, something on. So they're going to feel the need to fill the space because they're on for so long that they fill the space with advertising. And that's kind of where I see the problem. It's just it's just kind of become an aftermath of having the 24-hour television.
Well, right now, our society encourages pursuit of pleasure at any means, in my view, whether that be eating what you want, or sitting around as much as you want, or drinking as much as you want. If you want to do it, you should do it. And I think until we adopt societal standards that value self-control more than they do now, we'll have a problem.
I just wish that every now and then the commercials about eating bad or watching this or drinking that could have been broken up by something And I only know that they, like, Nickelodeon used to do a fairly good job of this on Nick Jr. It was like before and like at the beginning and at the end of every commercial break, they had like little, like a healthy fact or like a, hey, you should go outside. Like a little, I mean, it was more obviously aimed for children and stuff, but it wasn't a commercial because Nick Jr. would produce it, but it would be like a little, here's your, it would even be like, here's your ABCs, or like, let's count to 10. And I feel like if we had those kind of, I just wish every now and then there would have been an advertisement for something that would have promoted some sort of a healthy lifestyle instead of drinking Diet Coke and things like that. Those commercials made me the most mad. The Diet Coke commercials, because one of the commercials, the girl is drinking the Diet Coke and she's like, be whoever you want to be and blah, blah, blah. If you want to run a marathon, I mean, that sounds really hard, and I would never want to do anything like that, but you can have a Diet Coke. And I was like, seriously, you are discouraging physical activity so that somebody can drink a Diet Coke? Like, I was furious. I was so mad. And, like, that was not the only commercial, but that one stood out in my mind, that she was literally, like, bashing being physically active, but was promoting, like, oh, beers. Oh, you know what the other one was? I think this was some sort of wireless carrier. I don't remember which one, but it was some sort of cell phone provider. The woman is FaceTiming her son or looking at his Instagram, one or the other, and she goes, he skipped orientation to go to the beach. He's just like me. And she just keeps scrolling. And I'm going, what? You are actually discouraging? Like, is dispromoting a word? I don't even... Like, you were discouraging education. Like, those two commercials alone had me fuming on the couch.
I would say they're not discouraging education, they're discouraging parenting.
It was so... I think my sunroof might be open. It made me so furious to just think that these commercials go through multiple people to get on the air and things like that nobody was like, hey, we probably shouldn't be encouraging that or shouldn't say something like that. I was furious. I was so mad.
Well, you
can finish whatever you said. I really do think I left myself.
Well, I'll continue when you get back. Do you want to pause it? Well, I'm talking to you. So this is episode number 7. If you want to go back and watch our other episodes, we have 6 more on YouTube. We hope to have audio independent of the video soon so that they're more accessible for those of you who may not be able to watch videos. There is an email address where you can contact us with any interview suggestions or questions or just interesting things that you'd like to bring to our attention or see us talk about. What's the email address where people can get in touch with us?
coupleofnothings@gmail.com.
coupleofnothings@gmail.com.
Yeah, so I apologize about that, but I left my sunroof just a little bit cracked. It hadn't gotten wet yet, but it's starting to thunder and lightning up there, so I was getting a little nervous. So what were you talking about?
Don't know. I just went on an aside about how people get in touch with us and the episodes we've done before, just to fill the gap.
Okay.
So you take issues with companies that produce advertisements that discourage things like furthering education, parenting, or responsibility. Responsibility
in general.
Okay. Do you think that advertisements reflect the customer base?
Are you asking, do they make the customer base, or do they just cater to their audience? Like, that kind of question. Like, are they making people lazy, or are they just catering to Or are people
are
already
they
lazy?
catering to what they see as their customer base?
I mean, clearly. Clearly they.
But that's the whole idea of advertising, is that in order
I
to
get
sell
it.
this product,
I get it, but at the same time, if you are influencing people that much. So the reason I asked the question the way I did was because when I went through PR and marketing classes and stuff like that, that is a question of, are you influencing your audience or are you catering to your audience? So
you're doing both, right?
well, it should be influencing your audience by catering to them. So, buy this Diet Coke because I said, well, let me try to think about a really good example of this, but that's essentially what you're supposed to be doing is influencing them to do something by making it seem relatable to them. So you do have the audience that already is lazy and lacking responsibility and does want to sit on the couch and thinks, oh yeah, I would never run a marathon. But at the same time, a company should also be able to use that and spin it in a positive light and hopefully make a better change. But they are just trying to cater to their audience. But what they don't understand in just catering to their audience is they're turning it into a vicious cycle of keeping people in the same.
And at the same time, they're influencing people outside of their customer base.
Right. And they're making. Yeah, so then they're influencing people. Then they're influencing people that maybe didn't originally originate
I think
with.
responsible advertising is catering to your audience while being mindful of the influences of your advertisement. And that I've recently had a disagreement with a media company here in Birmingham, here in Alabama, because of some of the content in one of their stories. And I think that's sort of on the same level.
And we had a very good discussion about that because I felt like they were just reporting on the news and the facts, and you felt that they took it a step too far and got a little personal and things like that. And so, yeah, I 100% agree with you that it's a good example of they were,
In the case of journalism, reporting the facts but being aware of the influences of your story outside of reporting the facts.
Yeah. So I just wish that I really do wish that other companies outside of just people that were trying to make money off of things, I wish that there was some sort of monetary value that companies could see in making people better, or having companies that already do promote those kind of messages spend their dollar on advertisements and things like that.
Do you know what, in my mind, the only justifiable way to have companies advertise in a responsible manner is for their consumers to only purchase goods from companies who advertise responsibly. If you have a consumer base that refuses to buy from a company that encourages, like skipping orientation, for example, if they refuse to buy that product, then the company will see that this advertisement doesn't work and we have to try another. And then when the company does put out a positive advertisement, then people buy that product. Then the company is incentivized.
Yeah, but you're expecting people to be responsible and stand up for what they believe in.
I absolutely am. I think it's what we have to do if we want to have any change in this world.
But here's the thing. I agree with that. Sure, that sounds really great in theory, but when you have 300 million people just in America, seriously, think about how many, millions of people every day are drinking Diet Coke. Just because,
no matter what the advertisement is.
Right. Well, and that's another thing. A lot of people don't even... First of all, half of their customer base is not going to see that advertisement because I'm sure it's only run in America.
And maybe in certain regions.
Right. So you have to take that into consideration. But what I'm saying is even if that small group of people is angered at that commercial, which is only one of probably about 15 they have currently going, because they probably have a whole campaign, which I know they do because they now just announced these like skinny cans with like different flavors. And so the one guy is talking about how he wishes people noticed when he got a haircut, and then the other girl is talking about, I don't want to run a marathon, or whatever she says. So you can't even, it just doesn't make a big enough impact, because a commercial is only going to run for so long. A commercial, I think, only has a shelf life of like tops 3 months. Like a normal, now of course you have some commercials that go on forever or whatever, but like
do you know
how
much money companies like that make in 3 months?
But what I'm saying is for you to get a group of people that are angered at a commercial,
it doesn't take anger.
It would have to be, but I'm just saying, like, would ask for a commercial or a campaign to be changed, would have to be so quick, or it's just not going to make a difference. And I mean, that's where social media comes into play nowadays,
right,
because that does happen, and people do turn around. Like the whole, again, speaking of Coca-Cola, Kylie or Kendall Jenner, whichever one of them was that had the commercial. Actually, this was Pepsi, had the commercial of her. I think it was Pepsi. One of the soft drink companies. Anyways, she walked out of like her photo shoot, and there was a protest going on. And she walks over to the police officer and gives him a Coke, and then like the riot ends or whatever, and people were outraged. They immediately took that commercial off air. I don't even know if it ever aired, but that didn't affect their sales enough for them to make that change because lifelong. You know what I mean? Like that. Oh, they went, oh, okay, people didn't like us bringing the police or that in there, so we'll just cut that aspect out. It didn't make them advertise more responsibly. It just made them stay away from that one topic.
But sustained change is only a sequence of small changes. But
what I'm saying is I don't think companies take that change in the right way, because I think they just look at it as we shouldn't have done that one thing, instead of, we need to look at how we're marketing this all the way around and see if this is a change.
That's the thing. They had one instance of outrage, and they immediately took it off, and it caused a change in the company. If consumers were more conscientious, and they did choose their products or choose to abstain from certain products because of smaller commercial issues that they have, so not necessarily being outraged at a protest related commercial, but being abstaining from a product because of one little thing, like something regarding a marathon, then a company would get the picture over time. But that takes a really conscientious consumer base.
What I'm saying is I just think there's too many consumers out there that kind of stuff doesn't matter. It sounds picture perfect. I agree with it. But in practicality, I don't think that's ever going to work. But not in this day and age. But it's great in theory. It's really, really great in theory.
We have the tools for it to work. It's just a matter of us making the decisions. We have every tool we need to be mindful, conscientious consumers, and to make every change that we want.
The problem is that people look at things so black or white. It's like either I'm going to boycott this company forever and I'm never going to forgive them for what they did, or I don't care and they can just do whatever they want.
And that's a fault.
And so the problem is we a lot of times don't give the company the room to change. It's either black or white, or we're going to run you out of business and we are just going to start moving to somebody else, and then that person gets shut down. Or it's just we don't care and they can just run us over and have a monopoly.
Just like we don't give individuals the room to change. It's either black or white. If you say something that I don't agree with, then you're totally shut down and I don't hear anything else you have to say. That's something fundamentally we have to change. We have to be able to take individual occurrences of opinion or of marketing, and we have to judge those things in individual basis. And it's fair to look at behavior over a long time, but to totally throw the baby out with the bathwater over one opinion or one marketing campaign doesn't do anyone any good.
I think what always bothers that brings up a good point, because it drives me nuts when people point out things like politicians or a celebrity or something. They said this 8 years ago. Do you know how much has changed in somebody's personal life in 8 years? Like, people's opinions are allowed to waver a little bit. Like, as long as they have an explanation for why their opinion or their thoughts or something has changed,
And as
and
long
they
as
can
their
clearly,
actions prove it.
well, but that drives me nuts when people are like, well, 15 years ago he said this. Who cares? That was 15 years ago. If he's saying this now and can thoroughly explain himself and explain his reasoning, then he has every right to let his opinion or his thoughts or whatever change. It's been 15 years. I was
So I know
6
that-
years old or whatever.
I know that we're not supposed to be judgmental of others, but when I hear someone say something like that, when I hear someone say 8 or 15 years ago, this person did this and that's why I don't like them, that tells me that in 8 or 15 years, that person making that statement hasn't changed at all. And that to me is terrifying, because we are meant to constantly change, to constantly adapt. And if we don't adapt, we die.
Well, the thing is nowadays you have it on record, or you have it in social media, you have it on video, and so we think that we can hold that over somebody's head as proof. So just because somebody says, oh, well, 15 years ago they said this, doesn't mean that their opinion hasn't changed. It just means that they had the ability to Google what this person had to say on it and expect that their opinion is never going to change.
But my point is that for someone...
Half the time that the reporter or something wasn't even like alive or around or doing whatever when somebody made said statement. And so, yeah, it's so frustrating.
But my point is that if you're looking at something from that long ago and basing your opinion of someone on something from that long ago, it tells me that you don't believe in the ability of people to change.
I don't know if it's that, or if we just hold people to such high standards, like a politician or a celebrity, that we expect that they are a set in stone brick wall and that they aren't going to change, because I think people put them on such high of a pedestal that they're not even human in their mind anymore. And so if you think about it, like, somebody that's not human shouldn't be changing. So I think that's why a lot of people think that way. It's not that they don't believe personally that they, or that other people can change or whatever. I think that we just have this horrible habit of putting people on such high of a pedestal that we think that they cannot do things the same as us.
It's not a high standard. To expect someone to not change is not a high standard. The high standard is to expect someone to change. So when you look at someone and you say that I don't expect this person to have changed at all, that's an extremely low expectation of that person. The high standard that if we held politicians to a high standard, it would be, okay, this was wrong, this thing you said, but we expect better. We expect you to change and do better. That would be holding politicians to a high standard, or public figures, or companies.
I mean, I agree with you, but I just don't think that's how people's minds work, because I do think people put them up so high that they think, oh, well, when I voted for him 8 years ago, he said this. Especially if you think about it in terms, like, now that I'm thinking about it, 8 years, it's only 2 terms. But think about how much can change in 8 years. But that person was elected only twice during those 8 terms, or 8 years. So just think about it in that way. That I think that's why people think that they shouldn't change, because they've put such an image on them or put their beliefs behind this person. And then if somebody realizes, maybe that belief isn't right, or I personally want to change it a little bit because this has happened in my life. When people have put their own personal beliefs behind that person, I don't think people like to know that their beliefs are being challenged, but they definitely don't want to see somebody else who they have backed to be their person going through those kinds of wavering back and forth of
Well, and I think if we're going off into politics, that's the difference in political policy and personal opinion. And I think the two should be... So personal opinion definitely influences political policy, but political policy shouldn't be this moral battleground that it is now, because that's what it is. Political policy, I mean, you could tell someone one political policy that you hold, and chances are they think they know exactly who you are morally. And I think that's dangerous ground. And we're there. I mean, we're standing on it. But I think that's really dangerous ground, and I think we're seeing a lot of people justify being totally inhumane to others because of that place that we're in, where if they have this political policy, that means that all of their morals are out of line with mine, and that means that I can justify treating them as subhuman. and I think we've gone a little too far there, and I don't know what's going to come of it. But I think part of reining that back in is realizing that people are separate from their ideas, and ideas can change.
See, I don't think that.
Really?
No. I don't know how you could be separate from your ideas.
Because your ideas can change. Whereas a person...
But you're supposed to change as a person. You're supposed to grow and learn from those changes. So you are changing as a person. Your ideas are changing too.
So then do you think that attacking someone as a person is the same as attacking their ideas?
Yeah. I don't... What?
So, in the political climate now, we see a lot of, instead of attacking people's ideas, we see a lot of people being attacked personally for who they are. I think that's a result of conflating ideas with who someone is.
Right. I don't see how you can separate them.
I do, because if you're attacking ideas, you're trying to convince that person that those ideas aren't necessarily the best ideas. You're not trying to convince them that they're not the best person, because you're never going to get anywhere as far as convincing anyone if you're trying to convince them they're not a good person.
Well, I think if you're talking about it in a convincing aspect, but I think it's a matter of change and things like that, that when your ideas change, you change as a person. And so those are interwoven. Now, when you're talking about attacking somebody and saying, well, because you believe in this, I think to an extent people have the right to think that of somebody else. If you think that morally doing something, I don't know. I mean, like, I'm thinking of the issue of, like, abortion. I understand how people think that because you're pro-choice, that that's, like, immoral and therefore you are a bad person. I can see how somebody would think that. I would hope that person would dig a lot deeper and get to know the person that they're judging and understand, and maybe the two of them can have this conversation. They can still have a difference of ideas, but I do understand where those judgments and thoughts come from, because if those are your beliefs, then that's who you are as a person. I really don't see how you could separate them. Because what you believe is who you are, what kind of person you are, what you think, what you're influenced by, and things like that. That's who you are as a person. And those are your beliefs. I think that's almost like your fundamental basics of who you are as a person is your beliefs.
I don't accept the assumption that when you change your ideas, you change as a person. I think you can be the same person and realize that you have some bad ideas. Okay,
but I'm thinking of, you can realize it and maybe not act on it, but if you act and you realize, oh, my beliefs are wrong, but then and you start acting on it and changing, like, that is changing who you are as a person.
I think we'll have to agree to disagree right now on that. I don't see the value in looking at someone and saying, these are your beliefs, these are what you believe politically and socially, therefore you are this person. I think that we're all much more than our beliefs, and to boil someone down to the way they think society should operate is doing an injustice to
I 100%
complex.
Agree with that. Like I said, I hope people don't just continue on with stereotyping people and assuming things of people, that they go out and they meet these whoever it is that they're judging and they get to understand them and have a conversation with them. I 100% agree with that. And I really hope that people aren't out there just going, oh, well, because you believe this, then you are a this. That's stereotyping. And I'm not condoning stereotyping by any means. I just think
that's exactly what's happening.
Right. And I'm not disagreeing with that point either, because that is what's happening. But I do think that your beliefs are who you are as a person. So when your beliefs change, you change as a person. I'm going to hold firm on that belief. But I do agree that you shouldn't just be boiling people down to what their beliefs are. You are a lot more than what your beliefs are and things like that. But I think that's a fundamental aspect of who you are, and they're interconnected, and you can't separate the two of them.
So, how many? This is you'll never be able to answer this question.
6.
That's actually it's a fair answer. I was going to ask it in terms of percentage, but 0.00000000001% works.
Just ask the question.
How many people in America do you think have actually investigated, I mean, rigorously investigated the beliefs that they hold personally?
Oh, yeah, less than 6%, that's for sure. Well, because the thing is look, there are a lot of people that have researched and really thought about the things that they believe in. You're asking me how much have they looked into it on both sides and things like that. That's where a lot of people fall flat, is they only look at...
They justify their beliefs, and that's it.
Well, they only... I'm just thinking about Christianity is just an easy... A lot of people believe in God because they've read the Bible, but they've never thought to, well, let me read the Quran, let me read, other things and see...
Even the Torah.
Right. What I'm just saying is they've never really branched out outside of the belief that they have. So I'm not going to say that a lot of people haven't researched their belief, extensively dug into both sides of the argument of their beliefs is a very small percentage of people. But the amount of people that have just found their beliefs... And I mean, that's really hard because then then you could argue, well, that's not really, researching your beliefs. But to some people it is. And that's so, but it's still, regardless, it's a small, very, very small percentage. And it's a matter of, it's discipline. It's taking the time to do those things that a lot of times people just, they don't have the time to sit down and read books after books and do research. Now, of course, it's a little bit easier with the internet and things like that, but most people have a job, they have families, they have kids, and Okay, so before the camera died.
Yeah, we were discussing to what degree people investigate their own personal beliefs and challenge their own personal beliefs, and Taylor was saying that a lot of people don't have the time with families and work to really put in the effort that it takes to investigate and challenge personal beliefs.
Especially evaluate and investigate both sides of the story. Like I said, I think a lot of people have looked into their own beliefs enough to establish them, but then haven't gotten to the point of questioning them of, is this the right belief, or is this really what I believe in reading things that maybe they don't believe in, and that kind of helping further their belief in something. I don't think a lot of people take that amount of time to kind of look into things like that.
I don't think it's as extensive of a process as most people think it is, because I think all of the plethora of political things...
But you're only thinking politically.
Well, no, I'm thinking...
Okay.
All of the plethora of things you can have an opinion on, to me, all come back to a certain set of fundamental values. And for me, a lot of them come back to the value of human life.
See, you're really generalizing things, and I was thinking, question everything. Anything you believe, I don't think those can be summed up and grouped together and things like that.
Well, they're not grouped together, but they stem from certain fundamental beliefs.
That would be grouping together. That would be simplifying down to one concept. And I don't think a lot of them can be like that. That a lot of them don't stem from each other. And those are the kind of beliefs that take a lot of time to really think about and things like that. And I don't know if people have the time to go through every single belief that they have. And so most people do end up just generalizing them and putting them into a bucket of, oh, okay, well, this falls under, love thy, or, this bucket, and everything kind of stems from this, but I think if you really got into it, then you would realize that your beliefs aren't interconnected like that. But a lot of people do just do that because it's easier and it's a little bit more time conserving and things like that. So I just don't think that your beliefs should be put into buckets like that, but I understand how people do that.
But what I'm talking about isn't generalizing or putting things into buckets. It's just identifying which which issues are influenced by certain convictions, certain personal convictions. Like, I believe that each human life is equal, and human life is extremely important and shouldn't be degraded or taken away by other humans, especially. And I think that a lot of my political opinions and social opinions are influenced by that conviction. I don't think that's necessarily generalizing or grouping. I just think that's having a fundamental conviction that I haven't found an issue that makes me challenge that conviction yet. And that's a really easy one to go to, because
well, and
most
that's
people
just
would agree
one of
that,
probably about 50 you have.
Right.
And so to research every single one of those extensively is very time consuming.
But a lot of people look at the plethora of issues, and there are thousands of social and economic and political issues, and to investigate those individually would take an exponential amount of time relative to those 50 convictions that influence each of those 1,000 issues.
Yeah, but I'm of the belief that you should investigate every issue, and I understand that's where it's the most time-consuming and things like that, but I do think a lot of things are on a case-by-case basis, and I understand that putting things into... That was really weird. I mean, I get it. I get your example, but that's still only one of so many, and to do all the research it would take for you to just dive into that one concept is a lot. And I don't think people have the time to do that. And you said you haven't yet found something, but I don't think that you can say that you have challenged your beliefs or something until you find an example that does go against what you're saying. And so I just don't know.
No, but that's the definition of a conviction, is that there is no issue that makes me believe that human life isn't valuable. There's no situation that convinces me that human life isn't valuable, to use the example. And to me, that's what constitutes a conviction, is that I can apply that principle of the value of human life to any problem that I face, and it will help me make a decision on what I consider to be the right side of the issue. And there are less than 50 convictions, far less. But to me, that's just a really easy example to throw out. And there are some issues, economic, political, societal issues, that don't tie into a conviction. They may be slightly influenced by several different convictions, but there's no single conviction that can be applied. And I think that's what you're getting at, is the case-by-case instances that you can't really tie back into a fundamental belief like every human life is equal. I think those are more difficult to investigate, but are also just as important to investigate.
But I think you're just furthering my point when you said there's only so many convictions. Well, if everything doesn't fall into those convictions, that's a lot more stuff you're having to research to make sure that your beliefs hold to that. And again, people don't have the time to do that.
Right.
So you're actually, yeah.
So how could people be more efficient at investigating and challenging their beliefs?
It's on a case-by-case basis. It depends on whatever the issue is internally you're struggling with, whatever actual thing happened in real life that you are questioning. I don't know. I mean, I just think that there's so many things, and how for people to do it, it really depends on what it is. Whether that just means, okay, I need to sit down and read more books that are the opposite value of what I had been thinking, or whether that means I need to go out and talk to people and learn more. I don't know.
That's what I think the answer is.
But that's not the answer for everything.
I think it would be the answer for most.
I don't think so, but I think it helps in certain situations.
It would be limited by the region you were in, especially if you didn't move around. You would be very limited by your location. But I think talking to other people and really being genuinely interested in their perspective would.
But it is really hard because you're saying it, like the problem of location. Most of the time, you're only going to get one side of an opinion in a community or something like that, because most people are like-minded for the most part in communities, share the same belief, and that's kind of what brings them together. So you're really only going to get one side of the opinion unless somebody else has taken the time to really do extensive research and things like that.
Yeah, but close to half of the United States population lives in dense urban areas.
Right, but you're not going out and talking to all 3.5 million people that are living in the city. You're only talking to your small community, which is actually worse if you're living in a big city, because you're really isolating yourself to people you identify with. So you really are only going to get one side of the story. But if you lived in a community, like a suburb or maybe like a small town, you're going to get maybe a little bit more diverse of people, because you're going to have a bigger circle of influence, because you're not going to be so intimidated by the 3.5 million people living around you.
But I think the key to conversation, unlocking this puzzle of challenging personal beliefs, is seeking out conversation with people that you know disagree with you.
Right, but that still goes further into this researching from the opposition side, and a lot of time people don't take the time to do that.
Or don't have the patience to do it if we're talking about discussing with other people.
That's true, but it also takes a lot of time for you to realize that you have a different opinion. You very rarely just spark up a political conversation with somebody in a restaurant or something like that. Most of the time you're talking about something else you already have in common. There's something that has brought you together, and so when you already have that common thing, more than likely that person has some of the same opinions as you.
You're right, and that's why I laugh in the face of the social norm that it's sort of rude to talk about politics with someone you just met.
Well, how do you even start that conversation? Hey, man, did you see what...
Hey, I think this is important. Do you? And
first of all, there's no way to start a conversation with anybody. If you just walked up to me and said that and we've been dating for 4 years, I would just look at you and go, what in the heck are you talking about? And I would probably walk away from you.
But that's a social norm.
No, that's because it's a bizarre way to start a conversation with somebody. If you're not even going to say, like, oh, hello, my name is, and, like, how, like,
well,
yes, it's a social norm.
Explicitly say.
It's a social norm of not talking about politics, but because that's a really bizarre thing to just start having a conversation with somebody you don't know anything about. Because just because it's important to you doesn't mean that it's important to them. And so you're automatically putting your assumption that it's important to talk about onto them.
But that's...
And so that might be something that they have never even thought about. And they might feel like attacked or something if you're just asking them questions out of the blue that they've never even thought about.
Well, most people do, because they haven't thought about things.
Right, because everybody has different priorities in their life.
Right.
Right, so why should you put your priority over somebody else's?
I'm not trying to say that I would go up to someone and say, I think you should think this is important. My point was, you could go up to someone and say, hey, I'm such and such, how you doing? Nice to meet you.
But you think
that do you think this is important as I do?
But you think that having these conversations is important, and some people don't think that having these conversations is important. So you, therefore, are putting your assumption that talking to each other is important, where somebody else might not feel that way. That's what I'm saying. I never once said that you were going to force your opinions down somebody's throat. I know you would never do that. But the assumption that we need to talk to each other and that XYZ issue is important to be discussing, other people probably might not feel that way.
Well,
and you have to keep that in.
It's obvious that no one values conversation with strangers. And I'm saying no one. There are people out there that do, but they're so rare. And I think that's manifesting in our national politics, because there's a deep wedge between both sides of the national politique right now. You're either on one side or the other, and I think that is a result of individuals not talking to one another and not realizing that the people on the other side of this issue are just like me. They just have maybe a little different, they were raised a little different, or they have different experiences that color their belief. And I think if we discussed those things with one
But
another.
those things take time, and people don't have the time to sit and talk to one another. That's where I think you're missing out on this whole point, is that I agree with it. Yes, we should be talking to each other more, and especially our politicians should be talking to each other more. But we demand things at such an instant rate, and that things have to be the breaking news, and they have to happen immediately, that we are not allowing ourselves to have these conversations because it takes time, and nobody has the time to give to that.
It's because of how much we value thinking. No one puts value on thought. And again, no one doesn't mean everyone, but that's just an easy way to say that not many people value thought. Not many people value actually critically thinking through an issue. And that translates into not valuing what other people have.
Which I find
about.
really untrue, because I look at how many people are involved on political conversations on Twitter, on Facebook, and things like that. Just because they're not physically face-to-face anymore, people are still engaging in those conversations. So I don't think that the lack of thought is there and that our thought's not being valued. I just think that you haven't evolved into realizing that people now are talking across the world from each other on social media platforms or through the phone, FaceTime, texting, whatever, that they're just not happening face to face anymore because our community circles have grown so big, they've grown worldwide.
What I see in the digital realm is more the repetition of those headlines, those breaking headlines, those talking points. It's not thought. Repeating those things is not thought. Thought is
the comments and stuff that follow after it, and there's thousands of them on almost every article and things like that. Every Twitter, every tweet has hundreds of replies with somebody's opinion attached to it, which more than likely spreads off into somebody else questioning that or pointing something out, and then it turns into a conversation. And you get involved in it all the time.
I do, but I think there's something important missing from that, and that thing of importance is when we're doing that in the digital realm, there's no empathy involved. None. And you can see that with the way people attack one another in the digital realm. And I think if you're talking face to face with someone, there's some level of empathetic practice happening. And I think that's really important.
I get it in the fact that you are losing a little bit of compassion, but I think that you have the ability to learn so much more from so many different circles of people and different influences through social media that I don't want to say one outweighs the other, because they're both extremely important, but
well, they're not mutually exclusive.
But I agree. But I do think, I mean, I can see the pros and cons to both, but I think that probably the biggest plus of social media is that you have the ability to get opinions from different people that you wouldn't in your actual life. And so I think you can't discredit that fact of social media as using it as a discussion platform and things like that, because people are still conversing. They're just doing it differently.
I concede that.
I agree that you do lose a little bit of, it's the personal touch of seeing somebody the way they're actually reacting, and you can hide behind a wall of social media. I get it. There's pros and cons, but I don't think that you're losing as much as you. I don't think that there is a lack of value of thought, as you put it, or however you put it.
I still think there is, but what we should be doing is taking those global thoughts, and we should be integrating those into our local conversations. That way we practice empathy with and around.
I think they do more than you realize. I don't think you realize that you only see 4 people on a daily basis because you work from home. I think that these conversations happen a lot more in public, in places that I do think that these are happening more than we're seeing. I'm not saying that this is like a widespread, everybody is just sitting around a bonfire talking every night. No, people sit at home, they watch TV, they play on their phones. I get it, but I do think that there are conversations out there happening, and a lot of them start from social media and things like that. We just don't personally see them where we're living, the jobs we're working, and things like that, because when I look around at my day, I only come in contact with about 15 people a day, and I know you come in contact with a lot less working from home. And so I don't think that we can discredit that these conversations aren't happening, because I know that they do when I get around my friends and things like that. I just think we personally are in a little bit of a bubble.
They happen when you get around people of similar opinions.
Well, but what I'm saying is, how often are you around somebody that you don't already know you have a similar opinion with? You and I kind of live in bubbles. How often do you go out and just sit at a restaurant or sit at a bar or a public place and talk to strangers? It's very rare.
Yeah, but I'd like to say that when I do find myself in those situations, I'm looking for someone to talk to. And I'm not sure that I can only talk from my experience. You're absolutely right. And you can call it what you want, but this is my experience, and I think we should be talking to one another more often. Strangers. Talk to strangers.
Okay, you can go out there and talk to strangers. You can do that, babe.
I think it's important. I think we're just going to be manipulated by political parties until we do get to know the strangers in our lives.
I think we're manipulated by a lot more other things than we are political parties, but that's my opinion.
What do you think is the most
Money.
manipulative force?
Money. Money. Money's what drives advertisements. It's what drives our political climate. It's what drives everything. It's what drives people to work so hard that they don't spend time with their family. It's what drives people to kill other people and to rob people at gunpoint. It's money. Money is the worst thing that could ever have happened to any species ever. And we're the only species that we know of that's affected by it, because as far as I know, no animals or anything out there have some sort of currency. I mean, they all have, sure, something. I know penguins have their little rocks they like to give to show off to people, but they're not exchanging things for money. They're not literally exchanging their time and their life for money.
I think you're placing blame on a placeholder. Because if someone wasn't, and this is a very narrow example, but if someone wasn't robbing you for money, they would be robbing you for whatever they're going to buy, or robbing someone else who has whatever they're going to use that money to buy. They don't rob people. People don't rob one another or manipulate one another just to have money. Money is a means to an end. So I think the blame being placed on money, I don't agree with it.
You asked what the biggest influence was, and I think money is the biggest. No, I said manipulator. And I think money is the biggest manipulator, because it has manipulated us into believing it's the biggest manipulator.
No.
Because I agree that everybody else has their personal thing, but you have to think about the people that are literally working to... I just look at it as people that are like working so hard to sustain their family, but they're not spending time with their family. That is... Yes, money isn't the actual issue, but... I think people put so much blame on it that it has become the biggest manipulator by far.
But in order to manipulate something, manipulation has to be done by an intelligence.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
No, it does not. I don't think so.
Well, I wish we could find a word to agree on in this conversation, because I see manipulation as an active...
Okay, well, let me guess. You're going to say the biggest manipulator is our politics or political parties or something like that.
Well, I don't know.
But they're influenced by money, so therefore money is the biggest manipulator.
No, they're driven by power.
Which is given to them by having more money, or having a powerful person behind them, or having a powerful company, which is all based off of money.
It's not totally based off of money.
Okay.
And I don't know what the biggest manipulator of people is. That's something that it's one of those things I asked you to see what you would say, but I really don't know what I would say. And the two things that keep coming to mind would have to be either our nation states or our organized religions, because both of those things use people to attain a goal, some goal. And to me, that's the highest form of manipulation, is using people as a means to an end.
Well, that is like the definition of manipulation. So.
Right. And I totally agree with you that there are a lot of people within those structures that are driven by money, but they use that money to attain status or power or something. It's not just to hoard money. Now, there are isolated instances where people do hoard money, but they're hoarding that money for their future generations. So they're.
But what I'm saying is the fact that we believe we have to have money to get the status, to get the power. That's where money has manipulated us into believing that you have to have it to gain those things.
But see,
so that's
even before
where money has manipulated
even before
us.
money was a thing, people still were driven toward status and power. There just wasn't money in the equation.
No,
so
you're
it
right.
was
It
a
was
lot
how
more
many cows
barbaric.
you had, or how many gold
slaves
coins
you had,
right.
or it was much more barbaric.
But money is just okay. So currency, whatever you want to call it, some sort of assets. Your assets have manipulated you, whether that means your house, like how big your house is or whatever. But I still think money, as we use it now, yes, maybe money used to be cows or slaves or gold doubloons.
I did not expect that.
I still think money manipulates us into thinking that we have to have it to live a better life. And that's why I think that.
Well, again, we'll have to agree to disagree, and maybe we can do a whole episode on the relationship between money and people and the institutions that use it.
And the things that infiltrate them.
Right. Right.
So,
we've gone through a whole GoPro battery.
We have, and I still have one more thing I want to talk about, which I don't even know if you know anything about. Well, I know you know about the one thing because I brought it up the other day, and I have to pull up the actual tweet because it was so funny. So, it's July 31st as of right now, and that currently means that Mercury is in its retrograde, which I Googled because I was sent this tweet by one of our by not even friends of, it was sent to me by friends, but it's about two people that we're not friends with. But this girl tweets, Leo season starts tomorrow, y'all better be prepared. And this girl claps back at her, LMAO, you crazy year round, sis, what do we have to prepare for? So I Googled what it means when Mercury is in retrograde, because I thought at first this was just some astrology, hoopla, whatever.
Hoopla.
But do you know what the website was that gave me my first answer to what does Mercury in retrograde mean?
Fox News.
No, you will never believe this. Keep guessing while I get my computer
Weather
out.
Channel.
No. It's something old and was, I guess, transitioned to the internet. So I'll read the definition. So we are all influenced by the effect of Mercury in retrograde. Due to the way our own orbit interacts with other planets, they sometimes look like they're traveling backwards. So this actually happens a couple times a year. And perhaps, it says in quotes, perhaps Mercury's retrograde periods can cause our plans to go awry. However, this is an excellent time to reflect on the past. It is said that intuition is high during these periods, and coincidences can be extraordinary. So this started on July 26th and goes until about August 19th. And I found this on the Farmer's Almanac.
That makes sense.
How interesting. I mean, that was the first thing that came up on when I typed in like Mercury retrograde 2018. So Then I started Googling, of course, what does this mean for my sign, and things like Elle magazine and some other stuff popped up. But the one on Elle was pretty good. And of course now I can't get this stupid advertisement to go away. But mine was extremely, extremely relevant. And it kind of freaked me out when I read how cancers should be handling the Mercury retrograde. So Elle magazine told me that money management isn't necessarily a thrilling summer activity, but start combing over these statements and reconfiguring your budget. With Mercury backtracking through your second house of finances until August 19th, you could discover an accounting error in your bills to branches ratio, and you need to tighten up that belt. I just moved houses and forgot that I was going to have to pay 2 separate rents while splitting the month's rent. So, that could not have been more accurate when I went back and read what my horoscope should be doing, because that was definitely something I overlooked. But this gets really weird because it says, scour LinkedIn to see who's been making their way up the ranks, and then schedule drinks to catch up or talk strategically. And I'm going, oh my God, they're telling people to wear themselves out for drinks. But what is your are you a Scorpio? You're Sagittarius, aren't you? So your horoscope, John, says, no, Sagittarius, you shouldn't pour another round of truth serum. On the average day, you're already prone to foot and mouth disease, but with retrograde Mercury moonwalking through your candid 9th house, you could do major damage with those unfiltered remarks. Between now and August 19th, keep unprocessed thoughts on mute and be more observant than outspoken. You could have a total shift of perspective, or just get more confirmation that your instincts were spot on to begin with. It is... Oh, wait, this is pretty funny. Okay, this retrograde could scramble signals with summer travel plans. Forget spontaneity. Triple confirm your reservations. Bring an extra form of ID. And then it says, going international, queue up the translation app and try making requests in the native language.
Or just learn the language of where you're going.
But again, you know what? I'm not going to get into all the horoscope hoopla because we got really deep into it one night and we got very curious as to how the stars interact with people the day you're born and all those kind of things. And some of these are very vague statements, but I find those both kind of weird that they fit into our current life situations. Now, most of those did happen before this retrograde, since it just started on July 26th. We were in Iceland back in June, but they are kind of funny when you go back and look at them and you go, man, that horoscope relates to me pretty well. I mean, could just be one of my heightened coincidences in my horoscope.
Well, the thing about horoscopes is that we are more sensitive to our environment than we know. And the easy example to say is that, we're mostly water. Our bodies are mostly water. And if you look at the effect that the moon alone has on our oceans and that much water, it's feasible to say that a planet that far out could have some effect on at least the water in our bodies and the water on our earth. So it's not all hoopla, but there...
Why'd you say hoopla so weird? It's not all hoopla.
But there, it's just something, it's a piece of knowledge that you can take, and as long as you don't overuse it or buy totally into it, it can be useful.
I agree with that. I think it's a cool thing to look at every now and then. Like I said, it's a lot of coincidence and things like that, and it's just like getting your tarot cards read or your fortune told by a fortune teller. It's how much you believe in it. But yeah, I think it's interesting, especially when you put it in the aspect of it really could be affecting our bodies based off how much water. But I like to look at it every now and then because I think it's pretty funny. But yeah, the people that get completely oh, well, you're a Sagittarius, our
it
signs
determines
don't match.
everything.
Our signs don't match. We can't date. Like, those are
Well,
like...
that's discounting your own ability to rationalize and make decisions.
It's putting your belief into something bigger than yourself. But another cool thing that's going on tonight, which unfortunately I don't think we're going to get to see because it's pouring rain, but Mars is the closest to us that it has been in 15 years. And I think...
I pointed out how red it was at the concert.
And that's exactly where it was. This little does a good job of, like... but it was the closest... I think technically last night was, like, the closest. It just says between the two nights, so I don't know if one was closer than the other, but that's, like, the closest it'll be in, like, 30 years or something like that. So, well, that was pretty cool, too. That, unfortunately, we can't take our telescope out and go look at it, though, because it's pouring rain here.
It is raining.
So, but we talked about a lot in this episode, and I think that we have just about gone through a second GoPro battery, so I am going to turn things off and leave us again with a little bit of Widespread Panic.
Where are you going to drop it?
I was thinking about possibly flipping the record and putting on Blackout Blues, because actually, you know what I really wish I wish was on this record? It's on the other record inside of this album. It's Can't Get High, because we kept joking with our one friend before the concert that was the only Widespread song he knew.
That was a huge synchronicity to go back to it, because we had been joking with him all weekend about him only knowing that one song, Can't Get High by Widespread Panic. We had to leave standing next to him. We had to leave standing next to him during the concert because people kept packing into our row.
We didn't have our seats there. We had moved over to be next to him.
You didn't have to tell everyone that. We left those seats next to him. As soon as we got to our next seats, they kicked off Can't Get High.
Yeah, we about ran back to him to sing along with him, and yeah, that was really poor timing. Like, that just kind of sucked. I think I stumbled on the last song, so I'm really bad at the dropping. I also can't see this real. Oh no, this was
You're
right.
on it.
Okay, good. Well, this is a song we got to hear in Birmingham when they played. Now that I'm thinking about it, like, we've seen Panic 5 times in the year since we first saw them last. We got to see Dave Matthews, Jason Isbell. Like, we've seen we're always really fortunate with the bands that we get to see. And we got a couple other shows coming up this fall that we're pretty excited about. Get to see Chris Robinson Brotherhood again. And so we're pretty fortunate. But we've seen Panic 5 times in the last year.
And it's been a great time every time.
It sure has. I think we might test the waters out at a Fish show in August.
Maybe.
Debatable how much tickets are. Who knows? I might be like our one friend who looked at us and said, y'all know I'm a really big spreadneck, but I can, and he used an expletive, I can F with some Fish. And he just went in jamming, singing along the songs, and we were like, all right, man, if you can get that into it, maybe we can. So we might have to test the waters at a Fish show. We'll see on that one. But this is a great song we got to hear when we saw Widespread Panic in Birmingham. This is Blackout Blues to leave you guys with. Falling in and out of bars.